So welcome to another presentation in our seminar Philosophy and Psychiatry. Hvala i našim kolegama sa instituta koji su uključili preko Zooma i koji su danas ovdje u sali. So I have the pleasure to present today our guest, Petar Nurkić, and he's a doctoral student at the student of philosophy at the Faculty of Philosophy, University of Belgrade. So he's working as assistant researcher, research assistant at the Institute of Philosophy at the same faculty. And today he will talk about a very interesting topic about how one mental disorder or something like it, ADHD, can be helpful for coping with other kinds of psychiatric disorders like depression. So the floor is yours, Petar. You go.
Thank you very much. Can I see my presentation? Yes. Okay. I will try to do this in English. I hope it will be about fine. Thank you very much for coming today on this cloudy and bad weather. And I want to thank Janko for inviting me to a seminar. My topic, as you can see, is a bit my title is a bit hyperactively formatted, and my topic will be as well hyperactive, and I wanted to walk along as I talk, but I don't know if you will hear me well, so I will not walk. I will be still. I will try to be still. So the topic of my presentation is ADHD and the rest of companions in fighting depression, and why shouldn't I get myself together? Okay, this is my original title. It's a bit long, as long as my abstract actually, but Janko did not allow it, so I changed it to a bit simpler title, and he was content with it. And I will give a brief overview of my presentation. I will talk about something that we all have some kind of knowledge about. I will talk about ADHD and MDD. ADHD is commonly referred as hyperactivity, and MDD is referred as depression. And after that, I will talk about something that is really interesting to me as an epistemologist and philosopher, comorbidity. I think this is really important concept and I will try to say something about it. And after that, I will talk about epistemology of diagnosis, and this will be my original contribution. Also, diagnostic holism. I don't know if that term really exists in the literature, but I will pretend as it does. And I will talk about potentially positive influence of ADHD on MDD. This is my thesis, the adaptability of this kind of comorbidity. And it will be hard to defend this thesis. It sounds weird, but I like to defend some undefendable thesis. And I will give some implications for therapeutical praxis, and I will try to give some conclusions about pulling myself together. So first of all, this is very important, methodological senses. What can you expect from my presentation? The very broad hypothesis. This is really Kuhnian, and I will use conceptual analysis and the rest of philosophical tools. That is only what I have, and I will try to use it well. And I will give an epistemic perspective of diagnosis and non-causal understanding of comorbidity. Causal understanding of comorbidity is the most frequent point in literature, but I will try to give this account because I think it's more interesting. And I will give some holistic approach to the problem of comorbidity. So I think about comorbidity as a problem, as an epistemological problem, and I will give some conclusions, and I hope that we will have some brief discussion. So this is even more important than first methodological sense. What not to expect from my presentation. Don't expect too much of empirical support because research are still in their proto phases. There is not much research about this, maybe for a reason, but I will try to do something with it. I don't have support of clinical studies because the research are in their developmental stage, and I will not give some kind of detailed strategy for therapeutical practice because I'm not a therapist. And first thing that comes to our mind, this is epistemological approach. How do we know that some person have ADHD? I think the first thing is noticing some kind of characteristic behavior, like shaking of the leg shaking. And after that, we can ask ourselves about biochemical levels of explanation of this kind of behavior, and also we can ask a person how does she or he feels. And this is really, leg shaking is a good cardio because it spends a lot of calories. And but even ADHD persons cannot shake their legs for long, but this is a short part of the very nervous time. And I will try to give some common explanation of ADHD. ADHD is disorder of hyperactivity or hyperkinetic disorder. And this is actually the lack of focus and state in which persons have difficulties with keeping attention together, and this kind of person can be impulsive, and she can wander off while talking with someone. This person frequently is forgetting things and it acts without further consideration of the situation she's in. She has really problems with peaceful sitting on a chair and waiting in line. Okay, we all have problem with waiting in line, but the person is having more problems with waiting in line. She can be impulsive about it. And persons with ADHD are frequently feeling as they are propelled by some kind of machine or motor, and it's really difficult for them to slow down, to relax. And this is not just about laziness or a lack of will, but this is the way that ADHD brain works. So uncommon descriptions of ADHD, not so uncommon, but DSM-5 criteria for making diagnosis about ADHD. This is a kind of pattern of not paying attention or hyperactive impulsivity. I will show you the list of symptoms with not focusing and hyperactivity impulsivity, and these symptoms will be presented on next slide, I think. And about not paying attention, we must have 6 or more symptoms over the last 6 months. And regarding hyperactivity or impulsivity, we have to have 6 or more symptoms during the last 6 months also. But the difference between DSM-5 and DSM-4 is that DSM-5 prescribes that hyperactivity is something that can be diagnosed if before our 12th year of life we have some kind of symptoms of it, but DSM-4 make that border around 7th year of life, and if several of these symptoms are present in 2 or more environments, like at home, at work, with friends or relatives, we can talk about diagnosing ADHD. But also we need to have some kind of indicators that these kind of symptoms are really disturbing our quality of social life, quality of our work environment, and so on. And these symptoms cannot be explained by some kind of other mental disorder. And if this is the case, we can talk about ADHD. And there are a few subtypes of ADHD. This is not paying attention. It manifests by lack of attention, and but in this subtype, we don't have hyperactivity. We just have lack of attention. And the next one is hyperactive impulsive frame, and it's manifested by presence of hyperactivity and impulsivity, but we don't have problem with paying attention. And the last subtype is most severe because it has all of these bad things, the worst of the both worlds. And interesting thing is that some studies show that difference between girls and boys regarding these subtypes of ADHD. Study shows that girls have more of a problem with lack of attention, and boys have more problems with hyperactivity and impulsivity. This is socially and culturally influenced because how do we notice ADHD? We have classroom full of students, and boys can be boys, and they could be really problematic. And the teacher see this kind of behavior and sends the student to a psychologist, school psychologist, or school pedagogist, and then school psychologist can talk about ADHD, and you can ask for help from psychiatrist or something else. And in girls, this is manifested through internalization. They are keeping their ADHD to themselves. They are blaming themselves because they lack attention, and it manifests through hard work. And this kind of behaviors for boys is not so, society is not so critical towards this kind of behaviors in boys, because this is recognized as something that is, characteristic for boys. But the girls have more problems with it because all kinds of discrimination can emerge from girls with ADHD, and some symptoms of not paying attention includes not paying attention to details and making some kind of reckless mistakes, difficulties with keeping attention during some games or tasks, not paying direct attention during some direct talk with some other persons, a lack of ability to keep up with tasks and to organize it ourselves. And ADHD persons are avoidant toward some tasks that demand some kind of mental effort, and they often lose things, and they are easily distracted. They often forgot about everyday activities like doing laundry or something like that. So the symptoms of hyperactivity and impulsivity include shaking hands, not being able to sit in a chair for a long time, running or climbing on the chairs or on the bed where this is not appropriate, and inability to quietly and peacefully participate in games or activities, and hyperactive and impulsive ADHD is really characterized by too much talk, being in the frequent mood, and we can give ADHD person are giving answers to questions that are not posed yet, and I already said this difficulty to wait in line and probably interrupting people. That is really a big problem. So, as in ADHD, we have epistemic way of knowing about depression. We can see it in a person like the lack of energy, eyelids are half shut, and all kinds of characteristic behavior for depression. And there is a really nice anecdote about the person that is coming to a doctor, and the person is really depressed, and he says to a doctor, I'm really depressed, I don't have any hope in the future, I don't see any light, I don't know what to do. So doctor tells to a person, oh, it's really good that you came today, because today in the town you have really funny clown. If you see this clown, every person that sees this clown really is getting happier, and it gets better. So this is a really fine cure for depression. The really famous clown Pagliatti is in town. You must see Pagliatti. So a person burst in cry and said to the doctor, but doctor, I am Pagliatti. And this is pop cultural anecdote, but it's I think fitting for describing depression. We have that really we had Robbie Williams. Yeah, he was a fine comedian, but he committed suicide. I think it's frequent amongst comedians that they are really depressed. So we have nuances of depression. All of us are feeling depressed sometimes, but that's not enough to be clinically diagnosed with a depression. That state of depression has to last, and that is a state of being sad, being hopeless during some period of time. And in this state of depression, it is really hard to find adequate motivation to enjoy and the things that we used to enjoy that gave us pleasure, but now we have difficulties with doing common things like laundry or washing dishes, and there is no room really for pleasure. And depression is not just one bad day. During depression, people have lack of appetite or more of an appetite, and it's followed by a feeling of sadness, by weight, by all kinds of bodily issues, actually, and it influences every aspect of our life. But this is the extreme case of feeling depressed, MDD. So this is a hard depressive disorder, and by DSM-5, it's characterized by one or more hard and difficult depressive episodes, without history of manic, hypomanic, or episodes, because that would mean that we are talking about different kind of disorder, like bipolar disorder or something else. So we have A, B, and C criterion for diagnosing MDD. The A criterion is most important because we have a list of symptoms regarding A, and we need to have a period of 2 weeks feeling depressed and lacking of interest and enjoyment. That is necessary condition for talking about depression. Everyday symptoms of depression. depressive mood, of course, lack of interest and pleasure in almost all activities that we do, weight loss, weight gain, insomnia or hypersomnia, psychomotor agitation, lethargy or loss of energy, feeling worthless, feeling guilty. This is also socially and culturally influenced, because this is the way that society marginalizes people with disorders. And we have in depression, in clinically diagnosed depression, we have really severe decreased ability of thinking, concentrating, deciding about things. And this is the most severe problem. Pervasive thought about death, suicidal ideas without concrete plan, attempting suicide, or developing concrete plans for suicide. So A is followed by B and C, symptoms that are lasting more than 2 weeks, that are influencing even more severe damage in social work or some other environment. And this is important because we need to differentiate clinical depression from some other disorders, because if depression is influenced by some other medical state, it's called comorbidity, and if it's influenced by medication or drug, we cannot talk about MDD. We are talking about something else, and this is the most interesting part, comorbidity. That is 2 or more psychiatric disorder in a same person that occurs simultaneously. And comorbidity does not mean that there is any kind of causal link, but in practice, comorbidity is most oftenly viewed as something that has causal links between 2 disorders. But I will talk about non-causal links in comorbidity, because I think this is a more interesting case. And key aspects of comorbidity is some kind of problems regarding it. It is really hard to diagnose a person if there is a comorbidity. It's hard to plan some kind of treatments because symptoms of different disorders can overlap, and they can interact in a really complex way. I think that DSM-5 made a step up regarding DSM-4, because DSM-5 has concept of continuum and specters, and DSM-4 was more about categories, fixed. And I chose this topic because I think that MDD and ADHD are on the ends of the same spectrum because of the energy, not in a mystical or a sense of energy, but in an entropical way of energy that is manifested through different ways. And I want to include here 3 types of explaining comorbidity, but I gave up from that idea. But those 3 types were biochemical or neurobiological types, where we can see MDHD and ADHD similarities or dissimilarities, like we have some kind of neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, norendorphin. And we can see that on biochemical level, MDD and ADHD are really, really similar because certain parts of the brain are working in a similar way. But on the next level, behavioral level, we can see really drastic differences in behavior of persons with ADHD and persons with MDD. But on a third level, like phenomenological level, when we talk with a person with ADHD, when we talk with a person with MDD, we get similar experience about their own disorder. So this is very tricky, but to do proper treatment, I would suggest focusing on behavioral level, because if we change behavior level, if we change behavior of a person with disorder, we will change biochemical level also, and some register of our inner experience will also change. So I think that focus should be on behavioral level. So comorbidity that I chose to talk about is ADHD and MDD. Those are some of the most frequent comorbidities. And we have prevalence of MDD with the person with ADHD that goes from 19 to 54%. This means that in a population of persons with ADHD, we have this kind of range of persons that also have comorbidity or MDD. And we have also prevalence of people having MDD in a population of FDD where ADHD also occurs. So comorbidities commonly really are making more of a problem than having only one diagnosis. But I think there are comorbidities that are a bit different, like ADHD and MDD. So I think that we have a state when we are depressed, and we can have a state where we are really hyperactive. But comorbidity is not just hyperactivity plus depression. It's emergent state where we have really, really new state. And my recommendation is to approach it holistically. Because if we approach it to categories by fixing on one or other diagnosis, we will make mistakes, and treating ADHD may worsen the symptoms of MDD, and I will try to show that. So the problem with ADHD, with studies about ADHD, is that people are not early diagnosed in childhood, but most often they are diagnosed further on. And in the last 10 years, we have some change, especially in the United States of America. And people are really, I don't know, I have that impression that people are really critical towards ADHD. So because children that are diagnosed with ADHD, people critically approach that, and they say that those kids are spoiled, or that's not a big of an issue, and that's kind of, you know, Westerner way of thinking. But if we have a person with ADHD, that is something that is ascribed to their character, to their personality. So they have they don't have disorders, they have personality issues. And what to do next? This is my philosophical approach, epistemological approach. So we have in literature, most frequently authors are understanding MDD in comorbidity of MDD and ADHD like a consequence of ADHD. So some ADHD persons can get really depressed because they are often marginalized. Children often don't want to hang out with other children that are really demonically behaved. And so children with ADHD are often alone. They don't have a lot of friends. Even their parents are not very happy with them because they are really making them all kinds of problems and what to do when you have a child that is hyperactive. You don't know how to approach it, and this is really hard problem. It's more harder because parents are not thinking that this is kind of disorder. So my child is like this, and also I think that is important to differentiate between causal and non-causal comorbidities. Of course, the most frequent comorbidity of ADHD and MDD is the case where MDD is really influenced by ADHD. But I want to focus on a case where we have independent MDD and ADHD. And of course, literature focuses on this causal link. And I think the case of non-causal link is also really important for therapeutical praxis. So if we approach diagnosing comorbidities or ADHD holistically, we can gain a lot of valuable insights. It's all about perception. If we have a person that have ADHD and depression, first we notice is hyperactivity, ADHD. So we think that is the bigger problem because it's manifested in behavior. It's more manifested, and not me, but psychiatrists really are inclined to analyze, inclined to treat first ADHD, but holistic approach with the persons with this kind of comorbidity should recognize interactiveness between ADHD and MDD, because if we look at this comorbidity as a whole, we can get different ideas about how to treat it. So this is really thin thesis about potential positive influence of ADHD on MDD if there is not causal link. So certain characteristics of ADHD can serve as unusual defense mechanisms with coping in persons that are diagnosed also with MDD, because hyperactivity and vigility of attention in ADHD can successfully fight the anhedonia, stagnation, retreat in MDD. And hyperactivity and impulsivity are really contrasted with symptoms of MDD. So the question is, what will prevail? Symptoms of ADHD or symptoms of MDD? And this kind of behavior, hyperactive behavior, can really make person that also have MDD more active, more included in some kind of hobbies and activities and so on. If a person has only MDD, that is more severe problem because it's internalized and it really severely influence our every aspect of our life, work environment, emotional environment, and so on. So this kind of intensiveness or of ADHD can be maybe can be tool for including person with MDD in all sorts of activities. I already said that. And so we have implication about therapeutical practice. That is the consequence of diagnostic holism or epistemology of diagnosis. If we treat comorbidity as something as new state, emergent state, that is a better epistemic approach than to treat it like MDD plus ADHD. And we can use one element of comorbidity to help the other, and then further on we can also treat the other one. Also, what holistic approach can include combining psychotherapy and pharmacotherapy as something that is the best way of treating ADHD and MDD. If we have only, we have this kind of three explanations. If we treat this kind of comorbidity on biochemical level, we will treat something that is common core of the problem, but we will not treat the whole problem, just a part of it. And also recognizing the potential of ADHD symptoms to mitigate MDD symptoms, and also I think that cognitive behavioral therapy is most successful in treating this kind of comorbidities, because cognitive behavioral therapy is developing skills, is focused on behavior, and the recommendations of this kind of therapy is to include ourselves in some kind of activities and hobbies, and this is a good way to overcome depression. And also some kind of conclusion. It's really understandable that psychiatrists are focused more on ADHD than MDD because of the context of ADHD disorder that is really socially and culturally influenced, and this can cause really difficult problems later on. It's not treated in childhood. So psychiatrists want to treat ADHD because he thinks that this is more bigger problem than MDD. So we can apply a golden rule of treating comorbidity. We must treat disorder with more severe consequences. And I suggest that MDD is actually more severe in this kind of comorbidity than ADHD. So we should treat MDD, not ADHD. We can put ADHD to a side and let it be for a while, because it's not bad to have more energy when coping with depression, and we can try to treat first depression and then ADHD. But how to do it? If we have some kind of medication, it's commonly that kind of medication treats also ADHD and MDD. But we must choose some kind of approach that will not target ADHD, but only MDD. Because ADHD will make some changes in behavior that will be good for MDD. And that's it. Sorry for my bad English. I tried to do it in English, but I was not prepared for it.
Okay, thank you, Petar. First of all, thank you for agreeing to do this in English in the last minute because of our foreign guests. So we open the floor for questions and for comments. It goes both for people here at the Institute and online. Eli si zahvalila što ti govorio na engleskom zbog nje. Sad je shvatila. No problem.
Okay, I would like to ask a question about the difference of ADD and ADHD. You said the differences with people who are just lacking focus, and there are people with hyperactivity. So I would recommend that it should be a differentiation still between these two. So do you have any opinion on that?
Yes, I agree that they are different kind of states, but they. I wanted to talk about the states where we have also lack of attention and hyperactivity and impulsivity as the most severe case of it. But just lacking attention and just having hyperactivity and impulsivity without a lack of attention, yeah, I could agree that those are different states, and this kind of lack of attention is more similar to depression than to ADHD in a strong sense. Yeah, I agree with the difference that there is a difference, but about the causes of those differences, I think that is also culturally and socially determined, because if I have hyperactivity and impulsivity and lack of attention, but I have some kind of resilience, I will more easily control my hyperactivity and impulsivity than my lack of attention. I think I cannot control my lack of attention. That is a bigger problem. But my hyperactivity, I can try to ease up my convulsions because that kind of behavior is more detrimental in social context than lack of attention. Lack of attention can be recognized, and people will think that we are stupid if we have lack of attention, and that might not be a case. But if people are recognizing our hyperactivity, they will think that something is wrong about tasks in a different and more difficult way. There are worse things than being stupid, like being psychopath or something like that.
It really more resembles a depressive state with ADD. You are not hyperactive. Your energy is low. So
Yeah. I think also that MDD includes oftenly ADD, but that not might be the case because oftenly depression is characterized by focusing our thoughts on something really negative. And we have that kind of really pervasive focus on negative things, like in Joachim Phoenix. And that's my idea. That ADHD, attention deficit disorder, really our thoughts are not focused on one thing, but they are all over the place. And if our thoughts are all over the place, it's not that common that we will focus on one really dark thought. And I think that's good for depression. Being hyperactive, being having lack of attention is good for depression, because depression is hard when we are just between the walls of our thoughts, that having tunnel vision.
Any more questions? Can I have a question? While we wait for the people. So thank you for this very, very interesting and very controversial, but very important presentation, and an interesting idea how to couple this two disorders and try to find a common cure or something like that. My sort of a comment or a question was, so what do you think about all these new approaches that find that ADHD is not really a mental disorder, but more of a different, totally cognitive style, like autism and something like that? So because it is diagnosed very early, but it's like for whole life, it's different from depression or schizophrenia and disorders like that in some essential ways. So maybe there's that difference, and how this helps to understand how to relate the ADHD and MDD, major depression, something like that. So, because most of the examples that you gave were of kids having ADHD, and depression is, I think, more common to the adult life, pain and suffering. So, just what are your thoughts about all this?
Okay, thank you for your question. I agree that ADHD is not a disorder, but neurodivergent cognition, different style. Yeah, and MDD is a disorder of mood swings, and that's why I think that ADHD is having different kind of environments, where it's not marginalized, or you can have. You talked about environments that are adequate for this kind of neurodivergent styles, like autism, and I think it's all about environments. And in the case of ADHD, social and cultural perceiving of it. And that's why I think that in this kind of comorbidity, this is comorbidity of different style and a disorder. We can have different style does not mean that this is not a problem. And I think comorbidity is a link between two problems. It does not need to be two disorders, but two problems that are problems for sorry, in our environment, problem in our context. So that's why I think that style, divergent style, might not be a severe problem in this kind of comorbidity, but disorder like MDD is a bigger problem. So we should treat that first. And sometimes different style can help with dealing with disorder.
Thank you. Yeah, excellent. Do we have any more questions? We have a question from your Irina. Please go on.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry I could not be there, but I have to say I'm a bit new in or these topics are new for me, and I'm following a bit what has been done in our institute related to it, mostly what Voin was doing. And I was listening also to Janko's presentation a few weeks ago, and I have a rather general question, and this is that I'm already with Janko's presentation, and now with yours, I'm asking myself, if I would have not known that this is part of the institute and the philosophy department, I would have thought that we are at some school of medicine. So I am curious about this link that philosophy is making to and this step towards medical phenomenon, or even illnesses, or how disorders, and what in fact is this? I mean, I'm obviously not up to date. Is this some a new subdiscipline in philosophy, and how much is it spread at the Faculty of Philosophy in the region in Belgrade? I mean, what is your background on this when you study it?
Okay, thank you for your question. It's really interesting question. Janko deals with this topic more than I, and he has a different approach. His approach is phenomenological. My approach is epistemological, and our background at the Faculty of Philosophy is through philosophy of science, philosophy of cognition, and when you deal with like philosophy of cognition, you will certainly come up to ideas of delusions, cognitive errors. And when you come to cognitive errors, then the common way to investigate some kind of disorders or some kind of different cognitive styles, and that's the way philosophy is pointing us to psychiatric problems. And I don't know. I know about this kind of medical conditions, psychiatric conditions, experience conditions through some literature of psychiatrists and so on. But I'm trying to apply my epistemological approach on this. Like when I heard about comorbidities, I thought that there is some kind of methodological problem with it, some kind of epistemological problem with it. because if we are looking at comorbidity, like looking at the fixed categories that are just added up one to another, that's kind of a bad approach. But ideas of holism and ideas of causes and consequences in a strong methodological sense are really good way to give something to these serious sciences that are empirical. And because in these kind of sciences, they are talking about symptoms and manifestations. They are not talking about causes and effects. And talking about causes and effects alleviate science on a better level. So I think philosophy can help a lot. Epistemology, phenomenology can help a lot with nuancing the empirical sciences like psychiatry, clinical psychiatry, and so on.
So this kind of research has not been done in School of Medicines by medical researchers?
I think not, because this is kind of methodological problem of deciding between things. And I think these kind of questions are not posed in this manner in sciences like psychiatry. And because they often deal with practice, like with real case studies and so on. And I think when they want to pose those kind of questions, like us, when we read psychiatrists' papers, when psychiatrists come up to a philosophical, methodological, epistemological problem, he reads philosophical papers.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for your question. So, question or comment from Ali, and it says, it goes back at least to William James. Philosophy means nothing but an unusually obstinate effort to think clearly. The fundamental conceptions of psychology are practically very clear to us, but theoretically they are very confused. And one easily makes obscurest assumptions in this science without realizing until challenged what internal difficulties they involve. This comes from Principles of Psychology by James. It's a good illustration why we need philosophy in psychology and psychiatry in general. Thank you for your comment. I think also I will add my view here that Petar did a good job of defending philosophy in psychiatry and psychology, because there are a lot of conceptual and methodological, so basically theoretical confusion going on in psychiatry, because it's a very young science. So it's only natural for it to need some kind of a help from other disciplines in order to find better answers or treatments to diseases and disorders. So, of course, philosophers are not trying to teach psychiatrists what they should do in treatment, their clinical work, and so on. But the help is more in this kind of conceptual, methodological way to find new ways to study disorders, to understand disorders in new ways, to understand better this divide between what is a disorder and what is some kind of a normal state, or what are disorders, or should there be any disorders, and so on. These are all very important philosophical questions and psychiatrical and psychological questions. And from the other side, of course, the interaction goes both ways. Psychiatry can give very apt examples of how human behavior, human consciousness can change. And this poses further philosophical questions that we need to answer. What is consciousness? Is it just the brain, the body, more? Is it some kind of a dualism, monism, whatever? So it poses many, many more difficult philosophical questions. But so it's fruitful to have this kind of discussion between philosophy and psychiatry and psychology and social sciences in general, and cognitive science. So, but I will not take any more of your time. So do we have any more questions from people here or online? Did Ellie want to ask a question, or was it just a comment? Okay, we can hear you, yeah. Okay, we understood. Thank you. No problem. If that's it, okay, let's thank Petar again for his wonderful talk. That will be all, and please join us again for the next seminar in philosophy and psychiatry. Thank you. Goodbye.